Hello, everyone. This is Kelly Beard of KarmicTools.com, and this is our overview for 2025 and the energetic support and alignments we will be dealing with in the coming year. I do this every year, and it seems like every year it kind of changes focus in different ways. And upon assessing the year, I have already uploaded on my kellyandbeard.com site under Circle Up, under the free community event, all 12 months of free community events. And that allowed me to go in and look at the overview for the year. So when you see everything I chose to focus on that we're going to talk about, one little issue per month will get us through the year. There is a lot of planets on the cusp of signs, meaning they're crossing through two signs for the year of 2025. And by 2026, they're going to have moved into their permanent places for the new cycle to actually literally begin. So 2025 in general is going to have a huge ending new beginning vibe that will be unavoidable. It'll be inevitable. So what you want to do all year long, every season, you want to look at different aspects of self and aspects of life and the work and your purpose and things like that, and ask some questions. Is this an ending or a beginning? Is this a blind spot or a hidden potential? Am I carrying baggage into the new cycle, or am I really letting the past stay in the past and only take forward the strength and the nuggets of gold of wisdom that you've earned and learned through your experience? Now, most of the time we try to keep this focused on 1 year, but this 1 year is ending huge cycles and beginning new huge cycles. So we're rebooting 10, 20, 30, 50, 165-year cycles and bigger. Like, I also feel very strongly that as of 2011, 2012, we have already begun to step into the new Aquarian age, which is a 2,500-year cycle. We have the American 250-year cycle. So there's large and small, personal, social, collective cycles ending and beginning during the year of 2025. The challenge is going to be because Neptune and Saturn for sure, Mercury and Venus, personal planets, are getting in the mix on the Pisces-Aries cusp. So that's the end and the beginning of the zodiac as well. Like, these are huge resets that we can claim with Aries, that clean new beginning, spark of initiation, fresh, clean, new baby energy, just full of potential and possibility. But we have to close out with that Pisces and complete certain things, integrate into our being so that we become more whole and more healthy and more balanced from our experiences, not more crazy and out of whack, right? We want to integrate everything that we've learned and release the waste. We want to fortify ourselves and our foundation in our personal lives and our private lives so that anything we do in public goes more smoothly. If you got chaos at home, stepping out in the world ain't gonna help. There's just more chaos out there. So we have to do our grounding principles, which Saturn's been working on us for almost 2 years now, to anchor new practices that are more healthy and viable and sustainable. So again, micro to macro. If we can do this for ourselves, we can do this for the world. The other thing about riding the cusp of various signs is that, generally speaking, signs right next to each other do not see each other very well or clearly. The way I've learned and tracked this, I call it, this is when you all hear me say, everything's a response to the last thing and preparation for the next thing, okay? So Pisces is a response to Aquarius wanting freedom and detachment and individuality. Pisces' immediate response is, I want wholeness and unity and compassion and ease. Now we get into that dreamy Pisces space, and we are, in my opinion, developing like a womb place. That's what I consider Pisces. It's ruled by Neptune. Neptune represents the collective womb, or the collective womb experience for that particular generation. Like I said, it spends 14 years in a sign. So everyone born in that 14-year period is going to have Neptune in the same place. Then we have our individual womb. So individual, social, collective, rebirthing, or let's say incubation and development is happening right now as we speak, and has been for several years. Okay, so Neptune spent 14 years in Pisces, dissolving 165 years, essentially, and allowing us to dream up a new vision for being here. This is part of the new generation's agreements to come in here to change things. We adults have lived through the Pluto and Capricorn meltdown of our government institutions, education, healthcare, all that, all our social systems. But think about it. All the babies born from 2008 to 2024 are coming in to rebirth those very systems. They're going to have a new vision for how those systems should work. And we need to work together because Capricorn always integrates the wisdom of the elders, the wisdom of the grandmothers, comes forward when we're working in that particular department as well. So being on the cusp of Aries Pisces is going to be very interesting. Let's claim that it's going to be for our higher good, but let's pay attention because they're two very different dynamics. One's water, one's fire. One's mutable and flexible and willing to kind of go with the flow, and one is take charge, let's do it this way, I want my way, kind of energy. And claiming that new identity and purpose out of your accumulated knowledge, out of your earned wisdom over the last 1, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and bring that all together to this birthing. That's all I can say is we get a clean slate. You want to take it. It's like when I talk about spring and fall and we have equal balance, equal day and night, and we have access to literal balance. Don't let this crazy world keep you so off track you don't take advantage of the true initiation, integration opportunities that are presented throughout the year in a very natural, rhythmic way that we can learn how to feel and follow. So my breakdown for the energetic overview is to touch on the planets kind of in order and then let you know when and where we will be going deeper into these topics during the year. Because it was really hard for me to narrow down the Mars energy. So we're doing a whole call on it January 16th. But I'll touch on it here and let you know what's coming. But we are going to have to dive deeper in because, again, we have our personal planets mixing it up with the social and collective planets in very rare and powerful ways that we get to co-create with. And then if you have these energies activated in your chart, like let's say Pisces Aries is really strong for you, or Gemini Cancer is really strong for you, or Cancer Leo is really strong for you. This year is on and popping. We all are being called to grow into our wisdom and power at a whole new level and to express ourselves in a whole new way. That's the other outcome of the current Venus cycle. She retrograded last in Leo, asking us to recalibrate how we present ourselves to the world and how we invest our resources, love, time, energy into the things we care about, that we truly care about, and to somehow get back to our hearts and out of our minds and out of this weird zone of techno crazy, which also is rooted with Leo in our self-love, self-worth, self-value zone. So if we could reset that, then the reclamation kicked off with Gemini, giving us more options and opportunities and possibilities and expanding our thinking in different ways and helping us be more creative with our ideas. But Gemini's hard to ground, so we'll be going into a new cycle to recalibrate our values and priorities, which we do every 18 months. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I want to go in order. Starting with the sun, I would be remiss if I didn't remind you as often as possible about the annual rhythm, which is the easiest one for you to learn because you already know it, basically. It's already wired into your systems. Winter, spring, summer, fall is very active. There's lots of choices and change that goes on at the turn of the seasonal wheel, which is ruled by Aries, Libra, and Cancer, Capricorn. So it has to do with self versus other and home versus work, which is all very personal, important, primary aspects of life that we all got to deal with. But then if you have Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn activated, then you got some deeper personal lessons and blessings coming from that. But in between those seasonal shifts, we have the midpoint, 6 weeks into the 12-week period, ruled by Taurus, Scorpio, and Leo, Aquarius, which are fixed. So here's where we want to anchor permanently or release permanently. And the one that everyone misses and forgets about is the month before the turn of the wheel. So the month before the turn of the wheel, before we have winter, spring, summer, fall, we have Gemini, Sag, and Virgo, Pisces, which are the processors. So I teach that the rhythm becomes process, choose, anchor, or release. Now, if you do your processing well and thoroughly and consistently 4 times a year, not too much to ask, to process mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually is great check-in times that you could, again, this is annual, it happens at the same time every year because of the sun's annual rhythm. So if we do our processing well, then choices and changes go much better because we kind of understand what we're doing and what we want our outcome to be. And then once we make choices and changes at the actual turn of the wheel, the month after becomes those fixed energies where we want to anchor or release. And the reason it's one or the other for this one is because once you've made certain choices and changes, either you made a choice and a change that things are done and over, so you want to release permanently, or you made a choice or a change that is initiating something new that you want to anchor permanently. So, and I use the word permanently loosely. With Earth, it's always changing, moving, growing, shape-shifting, evolving, adapting, and we got to be more like her to survive. So that annual rhythm is something to really tap into because here's the other Kellyism. We're working on these, y'all. I try to write them down, but I don't always have the wherewithal to track these as they come out. But we're hoping to make little fun tiles to remind you of them. But the Kellyism is, don't think about clocks and calendars. When you ask what time is it, you want to be thinking solar, lunar, seasons, earthly rhythms. What time is it? So once you start to master the annual rhythm of process, choose, anchor, or release, then you start to know what time it is. Is it time to be processing? Yes, if the sun is in Gemini, Sag, or Virgo, Pisces, it's processing time. If the sun is in Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, it's choices and changes time, personal choices and changes. If the sun is in Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, then it is time to anchor or release something. It's time to address where you might be stuck or stagnant and need to anchor or release. And maybe stuck and stagnant is also all over the place. Either way, you need to ground when you get to those energies. So that rhythm and what time is it becomes much more important than, like I said, clocks or calendars. With the moon, we look at the eclipses and the supermoons that are going to be happening this year because that's where the extra juju will be. That's where the intensity and the biggest changes will happen. And for those who, again, have those energies activated, it's going to be personal. So things will be happening, again, individually, socially, and collectively with everything I lay on the table today. I encourage you to look at the personal individual first because that's what all my tools support. And another Kellyism is if the individuals get it together, the globe will be okay. So I like to focus on the individuals, but I love to contribute to the world and the collective and contribute here and there when and where I can. But I'm still a firm believer of get yourself together and then go be of service. So our eclipses bring change, radical shifts, what I call shake-ups, wake-ups, and breakups come with eclipses. And they follow us for 1 to 2 years, about a year and a half, in the certain signs. And they follow through the zodiac. Actually, they move backwards. It's not Aries to Pisces, it's Pisces to Aries with the eclipses and the nodes. We always have a call every year because we have eclipses every year, but the signs usually change. So our eclipse call this year will be falling in September. It's scheduled for September 18th of 2025 when we'll talk about the eclipses and what I call the lunar flip, which is also happening in 2025. So we're going to talk about that a little bit now, but we'll go deep into it on the community event, and your post-call goodies will have your personal activations which show where it's affecting you directly. If you need all that sooner, we can talk. We can do a reading or some way to get you caught up with your own cycles and where you're at and how these might affect you. So before I dive into the eclipses, let me define lunar flip. What happens with the lunar cycle, which is 18 months and 18 years, very powerful 9-year cycles that have to do with our personal individual rhythms, is that we go 18 months where we are now in the flow we're in now. The new moon is preceding the full moon, meaning we're getting the new moon in Sag before the full moon in Gemini, the new moon in Capricorn before we get the full moon in Cancer. So that new moon is leading the way, which means basically what I've tracked anyway is that we have to plant our seeds and walk by faith, and we get to the full moon. And it usually lights up something we have to address before our new moon intentions will take off properly. Now, come August, September, with the Virgo Pisces eclipses, in addition to that, we're going to have 2 back-to-back Virgo new moons. There's the new moon at 0 Virgo, August 23rd, and then the new moon solar eclipse at 29 Virgo on September 21st. When that happens, the order is going to flip. For the next 18 months, from basically September, October forward, the full moon is going to precede the new moon. Now, personally, the thing about moon is it rules your rhythms. So I just tell people to know your preference. Usually we have a preference, and my preference is the full moon first. So in the new year, when we get into that rhythm, when we get the full moon first, we get to have a lot of solid closure and completion because we can see everything that has to get out of the way of anything we want to start anew. And I like to do the cleansing first and then plant the seeds clean and detach from outcome. Then I am still walking by faith. I'm still doing it, but the order changes and I feel more trusting of that rhythm. You may have it the other way around. But either way, it's good to know the rhythm, and that's what I call the lunar flip. I'm sure there's a technical term for it, but that's what Kelly calls it. So right now, we're crossing over from going through the last year and a half of Aries Libra eclipses into moving into the next year and a half being Virgo Pisces eclipses. The last time we rocked this cusp, here we are on the cusp again, was the midpoint in a 20-year cycle would have been when we had Aries Libra eclipses in 2013 to 16 and Virgo Pisces eclipses in 2015 to 17. But the full cycle goes back to 04 to 06 Aries Libra eclipses and 06 to 08 Virgo Pisces eclipses. So all these years have in common the eclipse series we would have been going through and crossing over. So the way I've described it is Aries Libra eclipses, which are coming first, activate new identity and individuality things, and that shifts and changes those relationship things. Or vice versa, relationships change, so then you have to shift your identity because now you're a different person because you're not in that relationship anymore. So that's where those shakeups, wake-ups, and breakups would come from. But as we recalibrated that, in which we have done now for the last year and a half, now Virgo Pisces comes into play and asks us to shake up our rhythms and routines to be more healthy. Because we've changed who we are and who we deal with, now our rhythms and what works for us and where that frequency is healthy is shifting. And we got to actually trim things back so that our nervous system can function better and where we can get acclimated to this new level, right? We're calling in a whole new level of relationships, partnerships, and collaborations. It's huge. But in order to do it right, we have to know our own systems. And with Virgo Pisces, it's your physical body and your spiritual being, your higher self, and getting those two to work together in a way that allows you to feel and connect to your own intuition of what right timing is for you. And then being grounded and practical on the Virgo side of setting yourself up, being organized, and taking action when it's appropriate. So these eclipses are going to bring the final Aries new moon solar eclipse is also a supermoon. So now we've doubled down. And that's going to happen on March 29th. I believe that's the last one in the series of Aries Libra. So we are completing the mission with a for real, clean slate, new beginning, initiating a new 10 and 20 year cycle of identity, who you are within the context of your relationships. And we've been coming through the Aries North Node, which has asked us to choose a new path and direction based on who we are and what we want, and a little bit closer to the truth of that. The counterpart to that new moon is the preceding full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 14th. So in March, we have the first March 14th Virgo full moon lunar eclipse, March 29th Aries super new moon solar eclipse. And then it jumps to fall, where September 7th, we have a Pisces full moon lunar eclipse, and September 21st, on the equinox, we have a Virgo new moon solar eclipse. That's huge. So this year is dominated by the Virgo Pisces pretty much, and we need to be mindful of what's changing. And then looking at those previous years, which would have been 2013 to 17, and before that, 04 to 08. What ending and new beginning of cycles and rhythms and people and interactions with others happened for you during those years that you can capitalize on and build on now, or at least be mindful enough not to repeat the mistakes. The supermoons are falling in the spring with new moons in Aries, Taurus, Gemini. So here, we just talked about it being a super and a new moon solar eclipse on 3/29. 4/27 is the Taurus super new moon. 5/26 is the Gemini super new moon. So in the spring, we have lots of new beginnings that are going to be a little intense. And they're going to be further intensified by other planetary actions. So moon is very personal. It's your default settings. It's your past lives and your skill sets that you brought with you. It rules essentially your day-to-day rhythms. So that's when we want to pay attention to the moon. And like I said, if you have Aries, Libra, or Virgo, Pisces really strong, then these eclipses are very personal and they're changing things in your world. And you want to co-create, like get your vote in. They're not controllable. You can't completely control what the outcome could be, but you can set your intention and you can work with the changes, like making them consciously rather than having them forced on you or imposed on you. And then later, late fall, early winter, we'll have a Taurus super full moon and a Gemini super full moon. The Taurus super full moon is November 5th. And the Gemini super full moon is December 4th. So then by the end of the year, those cleaning, cleansings, clearings that full moons bring, that lighting up of a dark area that we need to pay attention to so that our new moon intentions will pop, we're going to have intense endings. So that's no joke because, like I said, the whole year is endings and new beginnings. And that 2026 is for real, a true new beginning. It's a whole new world. It's a whole new level of consciousness. It's a new earth emerging. There are new paradigms that we can live into now that we couldn't have possibly done 10 or 20 years ago. And there's things that were going on 10 and 20 years ago that are not possible now. And we just have to accept. Let's not label anything good, bad, right, or wrong. Let's just trust that this forward motion is also going to allow us to co-create consciously and choose on certain levels what we want to do and how we want to do it. So just be mindful of the intense periods, which will be supermoons and eclipses, spring and fall and late fall, early winter. Now, Mercury is retrograding through fire and water signs on the cusp also of Aries, Pisces, all Leo, and then on the cusp of Sag, Scorpio during the year of 2025. And our Mercury call is scheduled for, we already did it. That replay is up and running, so you all can access the 2025 Mercury retrograde through fire and water. So again, if that Aries, Pisces, or Sag, Scorpio cusps are relevant to you, or Leo, I got a bunch of babies with strong Leo stelliums, 3, 6, 9 planets in Leo. So that Mercury retrograde is going to really affect us directly in our fire water zones. And like I said, we went deeper into the activations that are going to happen with everything, because here's what I do like to remind you of. The new cycle in the spring kicks off March 24th in Aries. This is with Mercury, our thinking, our ideas, thoughts, and concepts, our perceptions, our creativity, our voice. What do you want to be a voice for? And the beauty of the Aries activation is that it's going to connect with Pluto. So again, with the clean slate rebirth that's possible. But while it's back 3 times over, it touches Pluto. 3 times over, it touches Neptune at 29 Pisces. So this is the end of that 165-year cycle. It's the end of the zodiac. It's the end of some old thinking so that you can step into the new with ease and grace. In the Leo cycle, the new cycle of ideas and thoughts will fall on July 31st. And what's kind of beautiful about that Mercury retrograde is right before it goes in, when it's in Cancer, it links up with Venus. And then Venus keeps moving and Mercury goes backwards in Leo, and it links up with Venus again in Gemini. So there's this Venusian energy complementing our Mercury retrograde in Leo time, which means we're going to be rethinking our values and priorities around our love life, specifically our sex life, where we have fun and interact with others and how that works. Like, what is fun these days. What you used to enjoy, you may not enjoy anymore, and things that you weren't really into might seem really appealing now because you're rethinking them. Then the Mercury retrograde through Sag Scorpio is going to activate the new cycle November 20th. And while it's in Scorpio, it links up with Uranus and Neptune, the big boys. So we're really rethinking on a soul level what changes have already occurred and what changes coming need to be dealt with. That's one thing. That Uranus and Neptune are pretty broad, but they're also very spiritual. It's where you get cracked open and you awaken to new dimensions or new wisdom or new understanding about yourself, your own individuality in a lot of ways. But it's also going to link up with ease and grace to Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces. Now we've got all three water signs activated, getting rewired 3 times over. So we want to expand our thinking and we want to ground our thinking at that time. That's going to, like I said, that kicks off November 20th, so that's later in the year. But the really juicy initiation, what I would call a prayer day, would be November 20th for the new cycle of thinking and Mercury and ideas. But November 24th, Mercury links up with Venus at 22 Scorpio. This is a powerful reset for going forward in your feminine power. Again, with rebirthing, transforming, transcending a certain level where your relationships and finances or relationships and resources are concerned. So Mercury retrograde is going to really rewire some things in 25 around our creative ideas and really getting into the flow. I can't tell you how many times lately I can just feel it coming. It's like I've cleared so many blockages around my creative flow that I've been struggling with for the last 5 years, and I can feel them finally dissolving. And the Venus and Leo cycle, which we're about to talk about, rethinking how I present myself to the world and what I want to do that I really enjoy and have fun at. Because most of us, work is work. It's not always fun to be at work. But I have chosen a career that is fun, and I will only do this as long as it continues to be fun and interesting and helping me and you evolve. So I love my job, but I also have been doing it well over this 20-year cycle. And at those pivot points I talked about with the eclipses were literally when I shifted from Cosmic Switchboard to KarmicTools, and when I switched from KarmicTools to Kelly M. Beard. So I know that Pisces Aries cusp is a place where my creativity gets churned up and then it starts pouring out and manifesting. So you may be feeling something similar, probably from a different angle, maybe in different houses in your chart. So that means different areas of life, but the same kind of vibe where you're blocked or you're contained. Like I always say, the womb space is simultaneously confining and limiting, but also provides all your needs are provided for. You got everything you need right there too. You don't need anything else in there. And 25. Which is leading to Mercury retrograding in all water signs. So the other factor to think about as you're developing better containers for your creative ideas and things like that when we go into that new year of 26 and we're at a new beginning, and then we have this Mercury retrograde in all water signs, we're going to be thinking with our feelings. We're not going to want to deal with all the logical side of things. We're going to be resetting how we feel about certain things and what we believe about them. It is going to be such a new day that the cleansing and purification we can do with the extra fire energy this year is going to be so good because both water and fire purify. Well, actually, all the elements help us purify and cleanse. But these two in particular, it changes your physical shape when you work with fire and water. It changes the literal manifestation of your creative ideas. So we're preparing to have more flow and more connectivity within in 2026. So there's lots of little things that need to be set up in place as protection protocols before you go there. Your boundaries are going to want to be reinforced 8 ways to Sunday during 25. Like, do everything you can. We've been all on the survival tip, getting, the Bug In book and a bunch of survival books, because there will be some things that you're going to have to do yourself that perhaps your parents and other people have relied on other institutions for in the past. Those institutions don't even exist anymore. And if they still call in the name, they're not the same institution. So there are certain ways we need to claim sovereignty so that we don't have to be part of toxic systems we don't agree with. And yes, it's more work. And yes, it takes more time. And people who have gotten used to clicking a button and having things there tomorrow are going to be pissy. But it's a trade-off. When you trade off this convenience, you're giving up your rights, period. There's just no two ways about it. So you have to decide what level of boundaries work for you. And that's what we're recalibrating. Everyone's got their level, right? Some people can handle more than others. It's unique to each individual. And this is the year where we redream it all, because we're going to be stepping into the new with what we got. That, it's like, take what you can carry and go. And don't worry about the extraneous or trying to be extra, because right now we're building a foundation. We're moving into new territories. So you're going to be building things kind of from the base up now in a new way. First, with Mercury, we got to wrap our brains around that. As we shift to Venus and the values and priorities where our relationships and resources are concerned, she is completing her Leo cycle and preparing to retrograde in Aries. So here's where I like to introduce the 5-pointed star that Venus travels in, a geometrically perfect 5-pointed star in the sky. This is the path she travels. It creates a 5-pointed star. So I generally like to start with Aries because it's the beginning, and we are coming up on the renewal of this Aries cycle. Last time we had that was 2017, and before that was 2009. So in the order that she goes over and over and over, and I would say every 40 to 60 years, it starts to shift into new signs. So right now, for the last 40 years, we've been doing it this way, and it is changing. And I'll tell you which ones are changing. Aries is changing to Pisces as we speak. And then it goes to Scorpio, which is changing to Libra. Last time we retrograded in Scorpio was 2018, and before that, 2010. Then it's going to go to Gemini. Last time we did that was 2020, and before that, 2012. Then it's going to go to Capricorn. Last time we did that was 22, and before that, 2014. Then it goes to Leo, where it is now, 2023. Last time we did that was 2015. And it's going forward back to Aries to start. So the way I broke this down is Aries activates the new identity and purpose. And because we have a new identity and purpose that we cultivate over her 18-month cycle, next retrograde is Scorpio. Because there's a new identity and purpose, now we have access to new power. But we got to recalibrate. That's where the retrograde comes in, and reorganize certain things so that we can channel that power in a clean way. From the depths of our soul with Scorpio, then she goes to Gemini. And it's like, because we have a new identity and we have new power, now we got new options and new ideas and new possibilities. But in the Gemini cycle, and think 2020, it's always hard to ground things. It's so many connections and so many ideas and so many possibilities that we explore during her Gemini cycle. That then she goes to Capricorn and it's like, okay, what are we going to make real? What are we going to give a structure to? What are we going to commit to? Because, Gemini likes to experience and flit around like a little butterfly. They don't really want to do the Capricorn structure, step-by-step commitment thing. But it's part of our value system and part of how we stabilize anything and manifest anything. Otherwise, we're all up in our Gemini heads. Now, Capricorn is an earth sign. It's feminine. We come down in the body and we make something real and we choose something to commit to. But it's all very serious Capricorn. Then it goes to Leo, where we've been now, where we were told, where's the fun? Where's the love? Where's the heart? We can't be serious Capricorn all the time. So if we're going to be committed, we got to be committed to things we really, really love and care about and let go of the non-essential. So this Leo cycle, like I said, is rooted in our self-love and self-worth. So now we're looking back at the last 8 years, 2015 to 23. We've run a Leo cycle that's completed, and now we're resetting and moving into the new. For the next 8 years, where she'll circle back. She'll be back to Leo in 8 years for a retrograde. Now we got the heart, we've got the love and the passion, and we've reset what we're presenting to the world. And it's all this perspective or perception, right? In Leo, we're always shining our light, leading in a certain way, and for some people, putting on a show. And it's an appearance versus an actuality. It's a role that we play, right? And like we said, what do we want to be known for going forward? But once she hits Aries and resets, it's like, I don't care what it looks like. I want to do it. I want to be it. I want to have it. I want the literal experience. I don't want to tell a story. I want to be the story. So it changes. And we're also back to a unique identity and purpose. So the Leo is all this love and passion and what we want with others, maybe in an exchange of some sort, or being creative and expressive and having fun is the root of that. But now when we shift to Aries, we're going to be, again, claiming a new identity. That new identity is completely based on new values and priorities that have emerged over the last 18 months in small personal ways, but in the last 8 years in huge ways. So if you've been in a relationship, in a job, in a house, in a community, doing something, anything, a certain way for 8 years, the values shift and you've got to renegotiate. So once I started tracking, then I could know where we were at. And we're back to, what time is it? Is it an initiation time or an integration time? Is it a testing time where we're being tested to change and choose something new? Now, the Venus open house for the new cycle is scheduled for February 20th. That's coming soon because that has a whole reading and a custom guide that goes with it that has all your Venus activations for the 18-month cycle and all the tools that I would cover in the monthly call. So the idea is you get the reading in the book to set yourself up and find out your customized information. And then you join the call where we talk about what's happening to all of us each month and we work the tools together. Venus Circle, I've been rocking with other people since 2007, so close to 20 years here of Venus Circle, and a lot of people do it over and over. Some people just pop in on the sign that's relevant. So if Aries Pisces is relevant for you, the new cycle is going to be very relevant. And like I said, we're going to go through a process, a whole new process of 9 months of release work and 9 months of reclamation work is the Venus cycle. The release work is guided by Aries. So again, we're clearing out an old identity and purpose so we can claim a new one. And when we get to the reclamation side, it's Capricorn. So again, with being able to manifest and build a structure and create containers for our creativity and things like that. Only if we reset ourselves individually. That's going to be really important. And with the Venus Circle, you can certainly drop in. It's only $25 a month to subscribe or drop in, and you get all the tools, your activations and everything. So there are some people who just do a month here and there when they feel called and still get everything you would get, that you just get a piece at a time instead of all at once. But those who are journalers and trackers, they love the Venus custom guide. And I'm probably going to dream up a Mars custom guide during 25 that I might be able to release by 26. Which brings us to Mars, which also initiates a new cycle as it retrogrades and only retrogrades every 2 years. So 18 months and 2 years is our Venus and Mars feminine masculine dynamics that reset. And then all that eventually lines up where they reset together, which they did, I believe it was 2020 in Aquarius. So that's a rare time when they both line up and start a whole new cycle. And Aquarius is sovereignty and freedom and independence and knowing who we are within the context of our relationships and kind of owning that individual piece and knowing that we're part of something bigger. This reset is happening in Cancer Leo. So right now we're already in the process of recalibrating our self-care and self-love departments. So how's that going for you? And like I said, we are going to have a call January 16th on Mars and its interactions with these other planets, because I couldn't even stop myself from writing down what was so critical. During April, June, and August, Mars is mixing it up big time with the social and collective planets. It's a powerful recalibration. Now, the April and June one, well, let's say during the April one, it's going to still be in its retrograde process. So it's resetting some things with ease and grace and creating opportunities. So it's not hard angles, but Mars in Cancer is connecting with Saturn in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus. So there's this, when Saturn and Uranus are near each other doing, and they have been circling and doing things, is that we're talking about the foundation and the traditional organization structure of Saturn with the Uranus that wants things to be radically different. Let's strike that lightning, crack it open and see, break the parts apart and see what we can put back together in a new way. So there's this old and new, this structured, unstructured, this safety, containment, boundaries, freedom, liberation, awakening, going back and forth with your identity and purpose that's rebuilding, right? That's resetting. That self-care and self-love, what would be radically different, but so stabilizing for your soul to adopt going forward in terms of your choices and actions. We want to make new choices and actions going forward that are rooted in self-love and self-care, better than before, better than the last 2 years. And the last time Mars actually retrograded through this zone of Cancer Leo was the 80s. So if you're old enough to remember, that's the last time we got a true cleansing reset in this zone with our masculine, which I would also like to say my Kelly definitions of that. Now, I say the masculine within us is the part of us that can negotiate on our own behalf, get our ideas in the world, and hold good boundaries. But my favorite definition comes from the Mythic Tarot by Juliet Sharman Burke and Liz Green. And they say it is the masculine which embodies our spiritual ideals, our ethical codes. All of these things are getting an upgrade. The self-sufficiency with which we survive in the world. Self-preservation is not selfish. It is essential and the first law of nature. And Mars is the I am. This is part of it. The authority and the ambition which drive us to achieve, to make those choices and actions, to get anything done. We need our masculine. And the discipline and foresight necessary to accomplish our goals. It fosters self-respect because it is this part of us which can take a standpoint from which to meet life's challenges. It means to possess a sense of one's own potency, one's capacity to initiate ideas and concretize them in the world. Bam. That's what our masculine is supposed to do. But it's been skewed by Western culture and patriarchy and colonization, and we're taking it back because we need a healthy masculine and a healthy feminine to function on this planet. Now, if you want to live on Mars or somewhere else, go for it, whatever. But on this planet, there are certain earthly principles that keep us healthy and safe. And too much technology is cutting into that from many different angles. It's raping Mother Earth, digging up in her to maintain this technology, and it's causing us to atrophy because we're not using our bodies in the ways that we were built for. And here's where we reset that. Cancer and Leo are super personal. Mars is who you are and what you want. So what do you want for your family and your friends? What do you want for your personal security, emotional security, physical security, and your ability to be a creative individual that can share your light with others without hiding your light under a bushel or being fearful of being violated or anything like that? We're resetting all of that with the Mars retrograde. The other thing I say about Mars is it is an 8-month investment for a 16-month return. So our 8 months started ticking in September, because it's basically September to June. We're in this process of resetting. During the course of that time, Venus is going to go backwards too. So when Venus goes backwards in the spring, Aries Pisces cusp we just talked about, it's like they're both backstage resetting to come out and do our masculine feminine in a whole new way, which the feminine I always define as contain, nurture, protect. This is the part of us that can see the whole and knows what development and incubation is necessary and has the patience to allow certain things to mature before we release them to the world. We need both. Now we shift from Mars to Jupiter. Jupiter's mixing it up. Now here's Jupiter's deal. Jupiter spends 1 year in a sign, so it takes 12 years to move through. But that 1 year moves throughout the year. So our year right now is pretty much May to May or June to June. And so half the year of 25, Jupiter's going to still be in Gemini, which we're already in and navigating. And it's going to shift into Cancer. We're going to have the Jupiter in Cancer call is scheduled for June 5th. And again, you can find all the calls we're going to do on these details on my Kelly M. Beard site under Circle Up under Free Community Event. So Jupiter in Gemini still mixing it up with Saturn in Pisces. That's a challenge to grow in our consciousness and change something in our reality consciously. Now, what's the trip is while Jupiter's in Gemini and Saturn's in Pisces, squaring off. So we've already had the first two hits with Jupiter and Gemini squaring off with Saturn in Pisces, August 19th and December 24th coming up this month of 2024. The final hit, Jupiter will have moved into Cancer and Saturn will have moved into Aries for the final hit of June 15th. That's the graduation, y'all. Okay, with any retrograde planets that are going to hit you 3 times over, generally, and some of the big boys do it 5, 7, 9 times, so it's crazy when you get to the outer planets. But for us and our purposes, generally it happens 3 times over. That first hit, which would have been Jupiter to Saturn in August, meaning again, we got an awakening, we figured out, we were alerted that our consciousness was shifting, which means the reality's got to shift, or our reality was shifting, so our consciousness had to shift. Either way, choices and changes were up for August. And now we're getting a second hit. While it's backwards, this is where the corrections can be made. This is where the reset is happening. So December 24th, Jupiter in the sky squares off with Saturn in the sky. And it affects us if we have Gemini and Pisces, then it's personal. This is where we really start to recalibrate so that on June 15th, once it's moved into Cancer Aries, we can make moves, we can make choices and decisions. We can actually step out on what we're recalibrating now so that it's better then, right? And so that we're on stronger footing and we're in more alignment with our own truth and purpose, which is what Jupiter and Saturn represent. And they are a tag team, and they have a bigger 20-year cycle, which they also started in 2020. So this is the first test in a 20-year cycle. So 5, 10, 15, 20-year mark. So let's just loosely say 2025, 2030, 2035 to 2040, where they'll reset again. And this is the one where you might have heard another overview somewhere else, where I talked about the big 200-year cycle that Jupiter and Saturn are a part of. And what we've been living through in the last 200 years of social level, Jupiter, Saturn are social planets. On a social level with our social systems that support society, they've been meeting up in earth signs. So it's the values that we've agreed to socially were having to do with material wealth, money, possessions, tangible resources that we could tap into and call real, and that we're feeding into our truth and purpose. And now they're kicking off a 200-year cycle where every 20 years they're going to meet in air signs. So now that it's shifting, now our social agreements are shifting to intellectual property and ideas and concepts and intangible value, Bitcoin and all these intangible essence, idea, airy things, right? Are now going to become the social agreement of where the value is, where the truth and purpose lies. That's hard on us old earth babies. I gotta tell you, it's not easy. I do joke with that Erykah Badu line, I'm an analog girl in a digital world. It is no joke. And I get it, and it's evolution, and what have you, but I dream about it being more balanced. I dream about it being more integrated so that we are, let's say, 90% earthly and 10% techie. Right now, I'm feeling really overwhelmed by 90% tech and 10% earth, and I don't like it. It's unnatural to my system, and I buck. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not good at this at all. So I need y'all. I need my young people to help me with this. I need my elders to remind me of what's true and real. I need the community. I'm so grateful for the community that has evolved over the years with me and Karmic Tools, and then certainly the cross-pollination that's happened with me and Yeye, Louise Satish. So it's expanding, and that's the other thing. Jupiter and Saturn both rule learning and teaching in schools and stuff. So Yeye's launching the Jambalaya School, where our Ile is the base faculty for now. That's going to expand, where we're going to be calling you all in to teach classes at the Jambalaya School. And this is going to be a place where we can all learn and teach and gather. But Yeye has already said that we all have to have our own as well. So wherever I find my land that speaks to me and wants me to be the steward of, I will be working my own little teeny school. Won't be as big as Jambalaya. It'll be a little teeny school that'll be all about the sacred earth and sky mysteries. And so I'll be that department for the Jambalaya School, where we integrate the Orishas and the planets, the forces of nature that we can call on for our lives. It's going to be so wonderful. And this is the perfect time to kick this off because it's going to be so needed, right? We are the bridge between the old and the new. Now, during 25, Jupiter will have entered Cancer. And like I said, we're going to do that call June 5th. But while it's in Cancer, Neptune will have moved into Aries. Now we're talking about the two faith and belief planets challenging us to grow in our faith and beliefs, right? In some kind of way. Again, we're taking the Jupiter education we've gotten in the last 12 years and pouring it into a faith or belief system that will work for us going forward. And at the same time, it's a challenge between water and fire, which would be our spirit and our emotions. We're going to have to be super mindful. Jupiter in Cancer is going to make all that Mercury retrograde through water challenging come 26. It's going to make everything bigger. So in one way, it could be bigger creative ideas. It could be bigger concepts that you're finally manifesting or giving a form to. but it can also be bigger emotions and more overwhelming emotions. So let's work on the counterbalance to overwhelming emotions is to get in your body, to create better boundaries. Working earth and water work well together. We want to give the flow a structure, whether it's emotional flow, energetic flow, or creative flow. Giving it form and structure allows it to not be all over the place and be chaotic or destructive. Now, the big deal about Jupiter and Neptune squaring off June 18th of the new year, 25, at the very same time that Mars party is going on, June 15th to the 22nd. So that whole week is going to be ridiculous energetically, with challenges to grow and opportunities to change and integration between your individual, social, and collective, like it's all three levels are being activated. It's going to be deep. It's going to be super deep. And Mars will be totally done with its retrograde process, moving into Virgo and starting a whole new 2-year cycle after changing who we are and what we want on some level, so that we can go forward and make choices and changes consciously and with this new identity and purpose in mind. Now we shift to Saturn, which in Pisces is, of course, mixing it up with Uranus in Taurus. It's going to happen on the 4-4, which is a magical, powerful day. While Saturn's in contact with Uranus, Mars is in contact with all of them. So again, who you are and what you want is being hugely awakened to a new level, but also where you're creating a new base and foundation for that new identity and purpose. And Pisces and Taurus, I look at it as the dream and the vision and the possibilities with your imagination. Super creative, super unique, creative, artistic part of you is creating that new vision that you're going to embody, that you're going to manifest, that you're going to express and ground in reality, in 3D, some kind of way, and have the actual experience. The other good juju with this is you can totally upgrade according to your values and according to your spiritual beliefs. You can upgrade your creature comforts and personal security zone. So food, sex, and money is the Taurus zone I'm always talking about. We deserve quality nutrient, quality intimacy, and quality accessible resources that aren't controlled by a machine. So we're going to get back to basics in a lot of ways so that we can still have a healthy, balanced lifestyle. It means cutting out certain systems and certain protocols that you may have gotten into that were convenient, but dangerous. And we don't want to do that anymore. Take your power back. Keep as much sovereignty around yourself and your family as you possibly can, because we're navigating the ending and the beginning. It's always messy. It's always messy when we close out these kind of big cycles and start new ones. It's chaotic and messy, but it doesn't have to make you crazy. You know, it can still be fun and exciting and good, but it's still going to be chaotic and messy either way, whether it's fun and good stuff or not. Now, as Saturn moves into Aries during 25, come August 11th, which is kind of a magical day, Saturn is going to connect with Uranus and Gemini, who's moved on. So now they've both moved on from Pisces Taurus to Aries Gemini, but they're still in an opportunity alignment. These are elements that work well together. Pisces and Taurus are earth and water, and Aries and Gemini are fire and air. They complement each other. They make each other better. So again, with that, radical shifts, but we're going to do it in a grounded way. And we've had enough time to clear out the old and to recognize what has dead and run its course. And we've had enough time to dream at least the baseline, the foundation, the beginning. We can't know what 5, 10, 15, 20 years is really going to bring, but this 5 years is anchoring the 20. So whatever we've done from 20 to 25 is anchoring us 20 to 40. And that whole time, 20 to 40, basically 24 to 44, is going to be Pluto and Aquarius showing us the toxicity and the imbalance and the crazy part of blending Earth and technology, or nature and technology, or humans and technology. So it's really going to be a division of realities. Then it's going to be up to you to claim the reality that works for your system. Now we shift to Uranus, is going to mix it up with Neptune, y'all. And that's one of those big boys. That's the outer planet to the outer planet, is going to hit 5 times over. And it is going to retrograde and dip back, where Uranus dips back to Taurus and Neptune dips back to Pisces one good time. But 4 out of 5 are in the new territory. And so this is our awakening liberation in an opportunity with our spiritual and faith planet. So you're waking up to new beliefs. There's just no two ways about it. And we can't get out of it because the world has changed so much. So we have to shift what we believe in and how we're going to function in so many ways. And then what's come up in a lot of divinations and ancestral work is we need a cover. We need a kind of disguise. We're going to have to protect ourselves by only allowing certain aspects through at certain times for certain people. So really knowing yourself and knowing the people you keep closest is going to be critical to navigating the new year. And cultivating that community that you can be in and be yourself and trust the information, because again, with this 200 years of error energy is throwing that information age into some craziness. So you're going to want to have grounded people around you to help nurture what's real for you and help protect you from what could violate you, and to have access to additional resources. None of us can do this alone. Believe me, I've tried. I got 5 planets in Aries and 6 in Virgo. I would rather do everything alone. But there is a social part of me. I got Sag and Gemini too, so I love to be with my people. And we've got to find that balance of intentional solitude versus social or community commitments and nurturing and being there for each other. And Uranus is just waking us up to new possibilities, new ideas, new concepts. You're making lightning quick connections. That's the other reason to be clean and clear in your body and your physical body, because you're a channel for this wisdom and these ideas to come through. And you want to be clear about what you're hearing, seeing, feeling, sensing, with all the clairs activated. And Neptune is shifting from Pisces in its home place into Aries, which is a whole nother dynamic to believe in yourself, to believe that you have the power and the capacity and the wisdom to make choices that are wise for you. And you don't actually need a governing body to tell you what to do and how to do it. It's important for your sovereignty to be number one this year, even in relationships and commitments you're already in. Like I said, I'm not kicking my husband to the curb, but we are going to renegotiate how we go forward in this crazy day and age. Now, Chiron is still moving through Aries, but it's almost done. In a couple of years, it's going to hit Taurus, and that's going to be a whole new assignment of healing, education, and soul work that we're going to have to do. Right now, we're still calibrating how to heal ourselves, how to do things for ourselves, how to take our power back from entities and energies that aren't in alignment with our goals. And we're healing that self-preservation is not selfish part of us. We're healing the identity and purpose so that we can be true to ourselves. I am huge on not violating yourself, let alone letting others violate you. So Chiron is helping us clean all that mess up. It only comes through every 50 years. So everyone born from 67 to 77, I believe, has Chiron in Aries and is part of that group that came in to be the leader, to be the individual that took care of themselves and did it themselves. But the challenge is having to heal a lot of those wounds of what happens to us with other people and how we negotiate our relationships, collaborations, and partnerships and things. So healing work is still underway in our Aries department. And the last thing on my list is the North Node shifting from Aries to Pisces. So January 11th of 2025, all the way through to July 26, 2026, is the North Node in Pisces, which means the life path and direction is rooted in spirituality, in creativity, in imagination, in trust and boundary issues. We're going to have to really think about these things right now. Who can we trust? And what are healthy boundaries? What are too much? We don't want brick walls where we can't tell what's going on around us, and then we get blindsided. We can't have such strong boundaries we don't know what's going on. But it can't be gauze or cotton porous where things just overwhelm. We need that good, healthy balance, which I usually say is hemp or bamboo. Super strong, super flexible, super breathable. That's how we want our boundaries to roll. And we can re-educate the people in our lives to let them know we're recalibrating the boundaries this year and how important it is for everyone to do it in order to stay healthy. Okay, if you don't care about your health, that's a whole nother thing. But if you want to be healthy and you want to have a good experience in your body and not be crazy up in your mind all the time, then those are the things that are going to shift with this Pisces North Node. And you should think back to the early 2000s, because that's the last time. It was 06 to 08 when we had the last Pisces North Node. So what path? And see, that's exactly when I conceived and birthed Karmic Tools. So now I've walked a whole path of being online. I am again trying to think about this path as now a hybrid. I do want to do things in person, so I'm looking for land for myself and a place to set up camp where people can come to me to learn if they want to learn in person. Otherwise, the online classes are beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I love them. I'm grateful for technology, but I want to do things another way. And this, I can already feel it bubbling and changing. And that leads right to the truly last thing I want to put on here is my dream and vision for the new year in terms of classes and offerings. So because of the work I do with Yeye, we're both having to be really, really organized about our time and how we do things. And she's got her set classes for the year. And right now we're kind of dreaming about this loose outline. So what I'm giving you here is a possibility. I'm not sure how many of these things will actually be anchored and offered in 2025, but this is where we're heading. Typically in winter, Yeye teaches the dream class. It's called Revelations. If we get organized and get that set up, it will probably run in February, March. Now, during March, I'm thinking about a one-day workshop to finally offer my Boundaries Bitch class. We've been talking about how to do boundaries because this is going to be critical for going forward. But I also chose all these one-day workshops because there's something we can do annually, and they're all good for beginners who are just stepping into this earth medicine or sky mysteries zone with me and the ancestral reverence and grief protocols that I create with and for Yeye. So it's all connected. And what I decided to do for Kelly, for me, I decided to do one Astro Day Long and one Earth Medicine Day Long. So the Astro one is Boundaries Bitch because we're going to talk about which signs do what and how we can use them to our advantage. But the animal totem and spirit team is like for beginners trying to figure out who their animal totems are and how to cultivate a relationship with your spirit team. We'll do a day long on that in March. Spring and fall will always be me and Yeye's busiest season because in the spring we want to do Elements of Ritual 1 and 2, and in the fall we do Cracking the Ancestral Code 1 and 2. Winter and summer, they're shorter classes. We're going to do 6 weeks instead of 8 weeks. And the summer one will be Age, the Living in the Lap of Luxury class. That's the one about natural wealth that we love and is really good. And it'll be perfect to do it in the summer. My spring classes, I'm going to do an 8-week class on eclipses. And we're calling it Destiny, Chance, and Choice. At the moment, it's probably going to get a new name, but that's the basis of it because that's what eclipses activate. Now, me, Kelly, I like my classes during the week, so I'll be doing that on Tuesday evenings, like my Astro 101 class. And then in June, I want to do Individuality and the Fire Signs. Aries is the spark, Leo's how we shine, Sag is how we inspire. So we're going to go through the fire energies really closely, and the Earth Medicine one will be ritual practices for healing, education, and soul work. That's the spring. And then summer class, I'm thinking about doing Astrology and the Ancestors because it'll lead into the fall Cracking the Code that I do with Yeye. So this will be a little different because we're doing the Astrology and the Ancestors. Again, this will be a 6-week versus 8-week class because it's summer and a lot of people are busy in winter and summer. So we made the shorter classes for summer and winter. But the all day, I'm thinking about possibly Jupiter and Saturn, your truth and purpose, your story and reality. This helps you with your timeline. So the Earth Medicine complement would be ceremony and sacred portals, which we might tie to these bigger Jupiter and Saturn cycles. It's so deep how we can cross over with both. And my fall class is the only class I could do at the same time that I'm doing Cracking the Code with Yeye is my Astro 101 because it's already in form and good to go and has all the tools ready. The thing about this fall, which for us will be October, November, 8-week classes on a Tuesday, is that last year's Astro 101 class now wants a level 2. So if I'm lucky, I will be figuring out how to do level 1 and level 2 of my Astro 101 class by the end of the year. And basically level 2 is all about how to do it for other people or possibly do it professionally. I think that'll be at least part of the curriculum. But level 1 is the basic introduction. That's why it's called Astro 101. I think I call it health, wealth, and knowledge of self because you're learning the basics so that you can just read your own blueprint at certain times. But that'll be the only one I could do at the same time. But I do have some day-longs that will be complementary to the ancestor class as well, is Venus and Mars are sacred feminine and masculine. So we're going to do that for the Astro day-long, and then the Earth Medicine one will be sacred tools and crafts. Now, most of you have already heard me say, I want to do a Sacred Tools and Crafts thing anyway. So we're going to do it long before December. I will definitely have a Sacred Crafts night before then. It might be something that we do, more than once a year because we want to make more than one thing. But I wouldn't choose it more than 4. Like maybe quarterly we do a Sacred Crafts and make a feather fan or a shell rattle or a bell or whatever you want to create for your sacred tools. It is so juicy when you create them yourself rather than buy them in the store. I mean, not that you can't buy them and bless them. I've done it too. But when you make them with your own hands and you pour your own ashe into them, they are so much more powerful. So that's the dream, y'all. And I also made a note for spring for the Astro Activism class with Yay. So there's lots of things we're going to do together. And then there's several things we do on our own. Like she's got her book party and viewing party we're going to be kicking off some really new community events that are going to be wonderful. But the Astro Activism is something I asked her to come in on. And that is going to be a 2-day event. And planets in the Orishas, we've decided probably has to be a 2-day event as well. It's really hard to go through all that in one. So what might happen with the 2-day events is that we do our presentation and give you everything we want to give you. And day 2 is questions and sharing and figuring out how to apply it going forward. But again, this is a loose dream of an outline, y'all. I don't know what spirit holds. We move at the speed of spirit. We do what intuition guides us to do. And there's a lot of divinations and confirmations that we will have to do to choose the exact, day, time, and place to do these things. But I'm dreaming, y'all. I'm dreaming, and any suggestions are welcome. If there's some class that I didn't think of, I was thinking of the basics and the things that I would do over and over to teach beginners. But maybe there's some higher level stuff that we might want to go through. Maybe you have your own ideas. We're doing the same thing with Yay. And her energy, like the day-longs that we've put together for her, are going to be all the little things that will help you with her bigger classes. So, let's say a day-long on boundaries, protections, and cord cutting. That's important, and we cover it in the other classes, but to really go narrow and deep for a day will help you do the bigger classes better. Candles, colors, and conjuring. She in Jambalaya, she's got that candle section, and there's a bath section. There's different spiritual baths you can take. Altar building can be a day long because, of course, we talk about altar building and everything in elements of ritual and in cracking the code. But there's so many questions a lot of times with people learning how to build altars. And it's one of those main things that you want to know how to do the right way. That's a big part of Ye's teachings. And then she's got invocations, charms, and chants for love, health, wealth, and more. We definitely want to learn some of those. Again, with sacred arts and crafts, because she's a big-time artist. So hers would be very different from mine, probably, but so much fun. And then building your own botanica or the ancestors in food. Like there's little things that we've noticed in the big classes that people want to go deeper into. So that's where I got a lot of those ideas to put forth. And again, these are suggestions that we're making for Ye's schedule, but we also try to keep her a nice, healthy schedule because she is an elder. And we need to have breaks in between some of these big events. But we're so grateful for everyone, and we're looking forward to the Jambalaya School being built in brick and mortar where we can all be together physically in community. And that fundraiser is going to be going on probably forever, but the big launch is happening now at the end of the year and beginning of the new year, where we're really trying to notify people about Jambalaya School and where we will be pouring our energy into over the next 5 years to build that base and foundation so that you all can come to us as well and do more in person. Even though we're going to continue to do all the online classes too, of course. So that was the energetic overview for 25 and the proposed possible classes we might each be able to pull off. It's highly ambitious, y'all. It's highly scheduled as well. And I tried my best to schedule breaks in between mine too. So it's really going to come down to the time and energy and the responses from you all as to who's really serious and committed and wants to learn these things in the new year to prepare for the bigger cycles that are being rebooted in 25, 26. It's huge. It's a very big step into some very new territory. And we want to do it together, and we want to do it wisely and peacefully. And we want to be invisible to the authorities unless or until we need them so that we are safe I always say we're moving through these cracks, these giant, ridiculous cracks in the system. May we move through them unscathed, unhurt, unviolated, and get to the new territory safely. That is also my wish for the new year. So thank you everyone for being part of the community. Thank you for listening to this. It's much longer than I expected. I thought it'd be about 30 minutes. It's longer than that. So thank you for listening to the very end and hearing my vision and dream for the future that you're going to help me manifest. So thank you everyone. Reach out directly when you need to. Join us when and where you can. And have a great, fantastic year. This is Kelly Beard of Karmic Tools signing off.